Welcome to the February Human Rights Commission General Meeting. For members of the public, we have a time set for 5:15 for public comments. And if you are interested in asking the commission or any members to do something specific, we've got a form we'll ask you to fill out and hand to Kenya, who will be here in this seat shortly. And I've got a little bit of a different agenda here. Starting at 5:45, I have some to be determined things. So this has been prompted by some requests to give room for committee time if possible. I've tried to do it over a number of months, and our conversations and other issues that have come up have run into that. So what I'd like to do is just ask that committees and task forces report on anything that the whole group needs to know. So take a second, and if you're a chair or representing that committee, think about whether or not you do need to report today. So which committees or committee reps need to report today?
Do you want to hear about, your rights up to right now? We just met with Kenya, Daniel, and I met today.
Is it really crucial that the whole commission hears that right now?
Not yet.
Okay, so why don't we postpone that, so if there's a need? You do, right? Yes. CPRC needs to speak about attendance, membership.
About the, yeah.
Okay.
We'll give HRTF to give a very brief update on our liaison with Welcome Home Coalition.
Great. Okay, so what if we give 5 minutes for those committee reports?
Total?
10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, we're gonna be about 1 minute, so.
Yeah, so let's give it a
So
shot
give
for
Sam 4.
5 minutes.
4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, I want us to have lots of room today. And another change to the agenda is the Joint Terrorism Task Force item that will be at council hearing tomorrow. And this is an issue that came up that HRC was involved with in 2011. And we did a report about it, and Joe is here representing CopWatch today to talk about CopWatch's position on JTTF, and Kenya has also made copies of HRC's 2011 report, so we can talk about taking action on that, and I'd like to give that 15 minutes.
So where do you want to put that?
Good question. Lisa Graham is supposed to speak at 5. She definitely will not make it at 5. She is in council chambers, and it looks like she may not be able to make it at all. Thank you. So, okay, give me 1 second for that one. So let's move Lisa to 5:45, because she might be able to make it by then. And so let's do a 5 o'clock for JTTF. Does that make sense? Okay, so with all that said, would you all look at the agenda and last month's minutes, and somebody provide a motion or two? They were left over there.
Yes.
The minutes.
Except for the two.
Try this
Great,
line.
thank you.
I motion that we accept the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? Hand and aye.
Aye.
Okay, can you catch it?
question?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm accepting it.
I move that we accept the agenda as written and the changes suggested.
A second.
All those in favor? That's okay. What? All right. Okay, I'm gonna move right into HRC and COAB stuff. Last month, Emmanuel was voted in. That was a process of, the settlement agreement asked the HRC commissioner to appoint, and we chose to do a voting process. And I'll let you, if you don't mind, say a little bit about where you're at with that, and also anything that you need from us. And maybe you have some ideas thus far about how you might be able to report back, what kind of expectations we'll be getting from your design of how you want to work with that.
Absolutely. So Monday was our first meeting, from 5 to 8. It's a real diverse group of folks, and that's what I like about it. I think everybody at the table has what they want to see, but then overall, what we want for the COAB to be, which is the Community Oversight, or excuse me, the Community Oversight Advisory Board. And I'll just pass this down if you guys want to take like a quick glance at it. So the first meeting was just about getting to know everybody, figuring out what the work we're going to do. So I don't know exactly, I think as the time goes on, I'll know what I need from HRC and how we can support this work. Yeah, so I'll kind of roll that out as time goes on. We have a meeting next Monday, the 9th of February. And it was just kind of good for everybody to come to bring their voices to the table. There was a lot of information shared. There was some misinformation that people didn't know. And I think with any type of group or any type of board or any type of community communication, like, it's always beneficial to have everything laid out in front of you. For example, a couple of people have made a comment, and this young lady that was sitting next to me, she was really just calling it out. She was like, actually, no, that's not it. And actually, this is where the money goes. And so she was, and I appreciated that, because if we can't come to the table and be really transparent, I would rather somebody could tell me something up front than I have to go and find out. Then they're like, oh, well, this is what happened. So she shed a lot of light to that situation. And at the end, it kind of turned into a little bitch fest, so I left. But stayed to the duration, and I'm looking forward to see what comes of that. And yeah, I have some comments that I'll probably say at the end, just more of addressing the board, and I'll save that for the end. But overall, I think it's good so far, but I'm waiting to see what will happen and what will come of this. Like anything else, nobody wants to sit around and just debrief, and look at data. So hopefully we can make some real moves and a real push with the people at the table.
Can you say when the next meeting is again, please?
February 9th, I believe next Monday, from 6 to 8.
And when you say you'll have some more to say at the end, do you mean at the end of this meeting?
Yeah, just at the end of this meeting,
Okay.
I just want to just address one or two things, and just put it out there so there's no confusion
Sounds
for
great.
me or for anybody.
Emmanuel, can I ask you, thank you for being at that long meeting, and I'm certain it was probably just daunting with all the people and what you have to do. And I'm wondering just how we set up space and time at the HRC to make certain that we're connected to this. And so I'm wondering, I'm pretty sure the COAB meets is it quarterly? I can't remember, or is it every other?
Well, it's at least quarterly is what's
At least
requested.
quarterly. So I'm thinking that what we can do is just make certain that we have a set agenda item that is just COAB, and whether it's a 2-minute update or something, at least we have just kind of built-in stuff. And there's that. I also think, I know that, the whole goal of the group is to go down and make certain that the city and the PPB are like taking care of those particular items. So I wonder if there are paragraphs or portions that we hold from an HRC, I mean, the entire settlement agreement is extremely important to us, but if there are particular articles that we really want to hone in on or that we have a passion around, I wonder if once you get to those, we can have, you know, just a larger conversation, or if you can, you know, reach out to folks and say who's maybe interested in just kind of a thought. Maybe it's a coffee that we do, or coffee or tea or whatever everyone's open to, but just a time and place if you feel like you'd like additional
Absolutely.
support, or,
Yeah.
you know, if we just can think about how we don't, because this is, while you're serving, I don't want you to feel like this is just all on you, like, go take care of it and it'll be great.
Has anybody, I know there was a brief, and I won't take you too much time, like a brief request to say, if anybody would like to join, has anybody actually signed up for that yet? Is there any confirmation to have like a partner in this as I go, like if I don't attend or just for the co-op
Like an
meetings?
alternate?
An alternate.
Yeah, an alternate.
Yeah.
So, we are allowed an alternate, and I put the request out to all of you, you should have gotten the email, and got a request, an offer from somebody, but I don't have that fully confirmed yet.
Okay.
I think it's a confirmation, but I'm not 100% sure, and I haven't heard back yet. The
All right.
person's not here today, so.
Well, and I know that we talked about before CPRC and CLEAR, and then just if there's work that you're doing, and maybe that's how we look at those particular articles or those pieces, if there's work that you guys are doing, you know, within those, or work that you already know is happening, or I don't know, I guess if there's some just connection, I'm thinking of not duplicating effort, but making certain that there's place and space to have these conversations without it being like a giant addition to your workload or any of our workloads. So
I think
we can
that's a
think
great
about that as we
idea,
continue to
yeah.
go,
Okay.
but.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's good for me.
Okay. And so the second piece of that for appointments was, two women and one man were appointed through myself as HRC chair with the PCOG chair. And we had to focus on applicants with qualified mental health professional experience or 10 years of lived experience. They can be working with themselves with mental illness issues or somebody else. So that's pretty much how you'll see the results of those appointments. A woman named Mir Laviani Riviere, a woman named Catherine Gardner, and a man named Bud Fulis. If you guys have questions about those appointments, I'm happy to say more later. We also chose an alternate named Joshua Robinson. Any questions about what's going on with COAB?
With the work that happened last night and with Donna Maxey, and Sam, maybe I'll look at you, I don't know if you were the initial connection, I know it was a lot of us together, I'm just thinking about wanting to talk about things in like buckets, right? So with all the work that's happening with Race Talks 2, which is criminal justice kind of engagement and conversations and things, is that, I guess I'm asking, are there
Related to the
connections?
COAB?
I mean, I know it's not specifically related, it's just around conversation, but it's something that we as a commission have talked about, like this is a part of the work that we want to do, is supporting those things, or is ensuring that we make place and space for conversations to happen.
What, so,
I'm not
I guess
sure.
I don't
What's your
even know,
question?
I really don't know what my question is, I guess
Okay.
my question
a
is,
simple look.
just having an active thought process here with you guys, sorry about that, but I
Yeah, I
think,
think that, yes, so last night, there was a lot of talk about racial profiling stops, community policing, but the COAB didn't come up.
you didn't come up with one,
No,
okay.
it
I
did
just-
not, it didn't come up. I think it's their, they have a lot of similarities, but they're separate.
Just two
They're
different
separate
engagements.
issues.
Okay.
Yeah, they're two separate issues, and you know, so that's a more in-depth conversation. But, yeah. And Alan, you might be able to add something if you so choose.
Well, I think the connection to the COAB piece and the DOJ settlement agreement would be the community engagement plan. My assumption would be that AC Krebs is considering that work to be part of the community engagement plan. So, but you know, COAB has such a specific focus around
Yeah.
the agreement that I think it's, looking at circles of intersections, there's just a very small intersection with COAB much more of an intersects both the requests that Donna made, HRC and the CPRC. How it fits into everything.
That's what
You're just trying to look for cohesion. collaboration,
Yeah, just in our thought
communities.
process, and like, if we were to go down an agenda, let's not talk about it 9 different times, let's talk about it, because there are like 9 different things that we're doing with CPRC, Clear, with these conversations, with other things, and just, you know.
I think it most naturally fits with CPRC,
Yeah,
or
Yes.
full HRC.
yeah.
Awesome, okay. All right,
I was
guys,
there
thank
last
you for
night, just
indulging me.
Yeah, as a community member, sometimes I like to go to things and just not be all this, I just want to be, so that's why I was there kind of like in the back a little bit, but as it unfolds, you know, wherever I can be used, if I'm available, I will be.
It sounds like a lot of people there. It might be nice to have that a piece on the agenda about that specific event last night.
Kind of a report.
Yeah,
There were a number of us there.
just don't know if there's a
Let's,
spot for it.
well, there's actions taken.
Oh, look at that.
Okay. It's done. Budgeting? Anything you need to say or request or insist?
So we need to, get the committee chairs to contact me or to send me their, budget tool that I've sent out to you guys now twice.
Yep. And what was the deadline again?
The deadline was the 29th of January.
Of January, so past that, okay. So I talked to, just as far as mine goes, I talked to Krebs yesterday, so hopefully they'll finalize something. And I've been trying to get an old budget, I contacted Denise, but I haven't heard back, so I'm trying to get an
I don't know
idea.
if I can get, we pass it out or something, I can send it to you.
Yeah, well, that'd be good, yeah, so, my apologies, go ahead.
So Krebs is involved with the budgeting for CPRC, is that how that's working?
Well, I asked him about needs, yeah, I asked him,
Okay.
you know, in the next year, what he foresees as far as, you know, kind of things that we may do and what the need for money would be. Yeah, so,
Because he's part of the planning team. for
Right.
CPRC.
Yeah.
Again, I think we should have community members there, but I think it's a good move, because the other thing that happens is that I think that the Bureau, and especially the Krebs, I should say this on camera, but I think they're likely to pay for more things at this point. So-
Yeah, and
So
the-
so we're involved with Donna and Race Talks, but I actually think PPE paid for the food
They
last
did,
night, didn't they?
yeah.
So I think we'll see more of that moving forward, and maybe so at the CPRC level. When we talked to ACOJ in the past, that wasn't always the case. And it wasn't because they weren't generous, it was just, we shared.
yeah.
Thank you. Any other budgeting updates for Kenya?
We have some for HRT, after we'll send you, that we didn't realize we need to have on the 29th, because we've got, it's been a meeting. It was right around that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we talked about some activities.
This
So
is
by
budgeting for the
Friday.
next year, is that right?
This is the budgets that you, the plans that you have for the rest of this year, and then any new.
Okay,
So
great.
Okay.
So there's another piece, participation expectations and strategies. I want to move that to after the OEHR report, because I know Dante's here and might be ready to do that. But before that, you're good, okay. You had another thing we said would go here. What was that? I've already forgotten. Okay.
Is it the nomination?
We need to do that. Okay. Sorry? What do you mean? Oh, you had something you wanted to add, is what I'm trying to tap in there for you.
So I'll just add that our commissioners, our newest commissioners have been appointed, and Marcia, being one of them, was sworn in today. And Audrey and Suzanne will be sworn in next week. And so then there'll be installations at the table, and we have currently one open seat, right? Before we have full commission.
Oh, I thought we had 5 slots.
When you
No.
guys came on.
Oh, okay, got it.
So welcome, glad you guys could join us today, that you got yourself sworn in. Great. Okay.
Somebody stand in there.
It's not.
You two have mentioned that as well.
Kenya, is one that's open or two?
There's one that's open.
Currently, until commissioners leave, it's not a
Right,
it's
there's-
staying.
When Amy leaves, there'll be two.
Okay, I want to take some time to talk about participation strategies. So as an executive committee, one of the things that we need to assume is checking in with the commission as a whole. How are people able to be engaged? How well are they being engaged? How well are we doing our job in making opportunities available and clear? And through that discussion, it just has really become evident to me how much participation and perception of participation from all members affects morale. And so just to kind of let things rise to the surface and have a discussion about it, I thought I'd ask for us to each check in with a kind of a self-assessment about what's our current notion of our individual participations. Is it full? Do you feel like your plate is full? Do you want to find more opportunities? And if you need to find more opportunities, what are the barriers to getting more involved or getting involved in a different way? So I think the goal is how do we be best engaged and most engaged in a way that serves us and the commission? So why don't we just take a minute and let everybody go around the room and take a turn just responding. And we're gonna have to keep it short, but just share enough that can provide us information so we can help understand where you're at and then also what you need.
Do you want me
You're ready to
start?
go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So I'm overworked. I'm doing too much. And that's not a bad thing, but, I'm the chair of the nomination committee, the chair of the Community Police Relations Committee, and the liaison to the PCON. And I feel like my ability to serve all of those they're not being equally served, just not being able to give the attention. PCON has suffered, I think, the most. And my Portland Commission on Disability. And so I haven't been, I've been in communication as the liaison, but I haven't been able to be at the meetings. And so, and that's my fault for taking on too much. So we really, I would like to see if other people don't have opportunities where that they want to be, on the nomination committee or PCOD. I'm willing to, the liaison, I'm willing to, step back from that because I think my most important role is the CPRC, especially with the things that are happening now with the CPRC, the new diversity manager coming on board, and just a lot of things. And although all three of them are equal in my passion and desire, I think it would be best served if other people could maybe take up some of those opportunities, so that they're, the nomination committee. I think we've done a pretty good job getting to where we're at now, and we're going to be full staff, but going forward, so when the other people leave, and the PCOD is really important, and I want to apologize publicly because I haven't been able to be as committed as I should as a HRC member, and that's not because of the lack of concern or care for that committee. So I think it's important that somebody who's willing to have the time commitment or can make the time commitment to maybe take that over. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Just as a reminder, let's not move into discussion about it or feedback at this point, so everybody can get around. Do you want to say a little something?
Well, I guess I'm sort of in that early enthusiastic stage where I'm holding myself back from jumping into too much because I just like, oh, this sounds so much fun. But I did go to something last night and I realized there is process I have to become sensitive to. Also, I inadvertently was sitting at the police chief and other police officers' table when I didn't even know who they were when I sat down there. They introduced themselves to me and, oh, well, I'm a new HRC commissioner and I'm gonna be on the CPRC. And Sam, sort of jumped in and said, well, she's gonna apply for that. Or something, realizing, oh, there's a process here. I was just jumping forward and everything. And so I realized, well, that's really something that as a new person, I have to be sensitive to, like, what is the process and things like that. But I'm still a little bit overwhelmed by the acronyms and that'll come.
We're gonna need a sheet on all the
Yeah.
acronyms, yeah.
Actually, Kenya did give me a book that has, and I haven't even opened the book yet, I confess.
Great.
But anyway, so it's like, it seems like there's some lay of the land that I'm not quite aware of yet. But if anything, I'm sort of holding, somebody from the housing mentioned something, and I said, no, I'm just gonna start with one thing and move from there, so.
Yeah, I don't feel too bad about it. So I'm on CPRC, Community Police Relations Committee, on the Housing Rights Task Force, and on the Nominating Committee. I also currently sit on the Executive Committee, just kind of by default right now. And I think for me, that's what I've tried to push away from is the administrative stuff for HRC, and it's probably the stuff that I least want to be involved in. And so developing more leadership here, I think, is important so that folks can participate in those kind of pieces. I think I want to get back and get down to doing work like we did with the Housing and Homelessness Forum. That's what's important to me here. So, and trying to further engage with CPRC. I like the work there. I don't know that it's my top passion as much as housing. So if there are folks that are interested in that work, then there's certainly a house that it lives in.
I'm engaged with the CPRC and I'm on the policy committee, but I kind of serve as some kind of liaison with the work with the housing, the human trafficking task force, because they currently don't have a HRC member on it. And then last meeting, I also mentioned that the ways that the housing pieces can connect to some of the other elements around town, that's also a piece I'm interested in.
I am on the COAB committee and CLEAR, and then kind of on the fringes with CPRC, like it's a hit and miss when I attend meetings. And what's keeping me, or how do I stay best engaged, is like over communication from individuals or collective, so I can kind of just have that communication open. I think that's the best way for me, and if I'm unsure of something, I'll definitely call or email. And just making sure that if I'm on these different committees that the overlap is okay, just making sure that I know what my role is and if I'm able to do this and be on the COAB and where we want to go with that. So I'm good. I'm trying to use my conflict resolution skills in so many different veins of my life. So that's where I'm at.
You wanna, no? No, okay. Well, I feel like I've been kind of intentionally shifting out in a way. And part of that is because I have to devote more time to work for some financial issues, not issues, but basic financial needs like we all have. And so I feel pretty engaged. I have noticed since becoming chair, I'm doing a lot of scheduling. And I wish there was a way that I didn't have to spend so much time scheduling. And getting people together and rescheduling and all of that. Seems not the best use of my time. I don't mind doing it, but there should be a better way. And I think that it's probably worth saying that the one thing that makes me feel less engaged is when I don't get responses from commissioners. Because it just, I don't think people realize, but I think it just puts a real block into the process of things. I have to wait, or I've got to follow up. So I think that's could be helpful information for as we go forward.
I came in initially when I was extremely excited about everything. I was like, let me sit on everything. But before doing that, I really was interested in what were the kind of goals, plans for each of the committees. Communications, the CDC, and CPRC or CLEAR, because I kind of was unsure of those initially, were things that I was just drawn to. And then right after that, I became interim vice chair, so kind of rolled into a different type of engagement, which then made executive committee work, and then just the work that you and I have done, sitting as chair and vice chair. So knowing that from the last nomination times and things that we looked at, who would come in as chair when Amy was set to go out, I've also been hesitant to step into anything else, because it appeared by last vote and things that I would be nominated to be the chair, and so I was obviously hesitant to jump into anything else, knowing that that would be the next kind of slate of work to do. But I'm really excited about revamping communications piece. And CDC somewhat, I'm also wondering if there's just kind of a thought process with every committee that CDC doesn't need to be its own thing, that the work that we're doing maybe just engages and encourages, just like with what the HRTF did, that to me was a discovery type action. And so I don't know if it needs to be a full separate committee that then goes out and does additional work. So I'm thinking a lot about efficiencies and how we make certain that we make place and space for things that are important to us or relevant based upon what's happening in the community right now. And that's pretty much where my head is.
Great, thank you.
So I love that, you know, thinking about these things. I personally feel really engaged, and I think about it a lot too. For me, the barrier is that, well, first I guess let me start that. I personally don't separate all the issues. I see how they connect. And like between CPRC and CLEAR and housing, I think that there's like a foundation that connects things. It is a lot of information, but I don't have that problem simplifying it. The only barrier is that we're not all on the same page together, and I think that there might be some dissension between us and the commission just because our passions might be a little bit different or something. And so because of that, I feel like I sometimes take on too much and end up spinning my wheels, and it would just be helpful if I was more in touch with everybody. And I think that the communication would be good. Because I sometimes will get stuck with all of the information, and it makes it so that I don't give enough time to all of my commitments. Personally, I wish that there was just something that I could run with and a team to collaborate with on things similar to the roundtables. Because I know that when we are good relationally and we have that clear focus and each other, that things can get done really easily. So.
So I'm new, and I am on the Human Rights Task Force, and I'm also a liaison with the Welcome Home Committee. And for me, I'm very enthusiastic, but I'm finding it very hard to understand how things are organized and who's doing what. And I can't find a source of information online for that. So for example, I don't know when any of the other meetings are taking place. Now, Damon mentioned about the Committee for Human Trafficking, and I was really appreciated getting that information. But I have no idea when meetings are taking place. I don't have I wanted to find out who people were and what they were interested in, and there was no place online for me to find out the names of other people or what people were working on or, for example, their background, because I thought, well, maybe it'd be interesting to find out what people's interests are. So I think that there's a little bit of work that we need, just kind of, it seems to me to have some centralized source of information where we know what's coming up and also who to contact for different things, so that we can all, like, I would love to go to the next meeting, but I don't know when it is, for the human rights task, the trafficking task force. I also have a lot of ideas about how we might be doing more kind of research in and talking to different people in communities to bring forth new issues. Because I think, you know, there's a lot of great issues that are being covered, and then there's a lot of issues that are also really important. And if our job is as an ear to the community, right, of kind of what things are important for people to know about and be discussing, I think there's some ways that we might be engaged in actually going out and talking to different people to get to bring that information back. But again, I'm not quite sure what the formalized process is. I don't want to step on people's toes or step out, you know, do things out of, but I really don't know what the process is, for example, to present some ideas that I'm having in a way that recognizes and also respects all the wonderful work that people have done. So I just want to say, I think that there's great work being done here, and I really want to recognize that.
Thank you.
So I'm obviously brand new, just starting my work here as well, and I'm involved in the Housing Rights Task Force, and I'm also a liaison in a different fashion as Suzanne for the Welcome Home Coalition. I'm working on their strategy team, and you know, I would say right now I don't have a concept of how I am. I feel like that's going to be enough for me at this time, but it's also because I'm not familiar with everything that's going on. I would also sort of second some of the things that Suzanne said. I have a very sort of scheduled, calendared life with my job, and I want to be involved in stuff, but it's really like I need a lot of communication and understanding what's going on and what's coming up so that I can know if I can be involved or not. I have a hard time doing sort of last minute stuff. So there may be other areas that I would like to engage, but I don't know what they are yet.
Great, thank you.
And are we taking note on this to maybe touch on it at the retreat?
That's
Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
Oh, cool.
The three of us are on the same page.
Nice.
I did my best to take notes, but maybe we'll share and dump it all together. So Alan, thank you guys, that's really helpful. Alan has a little bit more about this topic of participation when it particularly comes to meeting attendance.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different than what we just did, but I did want to go back to it and point out to folks that, like Amy said, really the underlying piece of it around attendance and participation is how we interact with one another and support one another as a commission. And you know, how it helps lift everybody up when people are fully engaged and participating. But there is also a bylaw component to it that's under attendance. So our bylaws under Article 4, which is membership, Section 4, attendance, actually says, due to concern, let's see, it starts out, commission members shall attend meetings regularly and participate actively in advisory committee meetings. So we want to set some expectations about that. But it also says, due to concerns regarding membership continuity and the need to perform the commission's duties, if a member accumulates 3 unexcused absences during a 1-year period, that person shall be recommended for removal. So our former chair, who was an attorney, pointed out to us that the word shall means that it must be done, that it's not an option. So if we are to follow our bylaws, it means that we need to be able to track and define what unexcused absences are. And so this is talking about this meeting in particular, this monthly regular HRC meeting. And it says defined an unexcused absence is defined as an absence without notifying the chair of the commission or his or her appointee or HRC staff prior to the beginning of the commission's regular meeting. So what we want to do is just take this time to say that's a requirement for folks, is obviously life comes up for people. I guess what I didn't get to say going around is for folks who don't know in this room that my day job is as a tax preparer. So for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to be extraordinarily busy, and there will be times when I won't be here and won't be engaged. What we're asking folks to do then is to, so that you don't have an unexcused absence, is to contact the chair or contact Kenya and just say, I won't be at Wednesday's meeting prior to the start of the meeting. If folks are accumulating unexcused absences, as we approach that 3 number, we want to put in place a process where an executive committee member will contact folks that are accumulating unexcused absences, remind them that we have this policy in place, and just check in with them to see if there are circumstances that we might be able to assist with or otherwise deal with. So we wanted to kind of get, make sure folks understood that today moving forward, and then we'll put that process in place and start to move forward with that, so that we can work together well and also be in compliance with our bylaws.
Great, thank you. Final questions, comments about that? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to I'll make it quick. I feel like a part of the reason why we stopped following is because so much of the work gets done in committees, but just because the committees right now are kind of in the air, meeting times change. I understand why we stick to that. I just want to know, can we make a commitment to start using the Google Calendar a little bit more so that we know when meetings are and all of the commissioners can just open their Google Calendar, see when the meetings are. I know that, I don't know who has control over it right now, but whoever does, I feel should give that control to the chair or to committee heads, executive committee, so that they can use it.
What meeting are you talking about?
All
I'm talking-
meetings.
All meetings, yeah.
He wants all meetings of HOC to be put on the shared Google Calendar. So let me just ask, does anybody not have access to the shared Google Calendar unless you're a new member?
Does the public have access to it?
Can I,
So, I think no.
I just want to, so I think we're talking about 2 different things. So that we're talking about the attendance for the HRC,
Yeah.
right? So, so every HRC member should know when our meetings are. They're the first Wednesday of every month, and they're here. So, and that's on the, it's on the page, the webpage. I think the other thing too is, the Google thing is great, but I think that if we're gonna put all the meetings, like the CPRC meeting is on the page as well. I think we should have all the meetings on the webpage so that the entire public can see and know. And I like what Suzanne was saying, I think we should look at, putting bios or, or pictures and other stuff, contact information on there as well down the road. But to follow what you're saying, I think that the meetings should be on the webpage so that so everybody in the community knows they can go, they can click on the task force, they can click on CPRC, and they can know when it is, when the meeting is, who the people are. And if we want to do the Google thing as well, great, but.
Suzanne, any questions?
Yeah, and I just
But
want to
I think we should
add,
probably take this discussion offline.
okay,
Yeah.
just one other thing, it would be helpful if there was a regular meeting time for some of those. I mean, we've talked about a regular meeting time, maybe all groups don't need it, but it's helpful for planning to know when those meetings are that are coming up.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
The whole, I know we have retreat planning kind of conversation later. Thank you for this and the time to go around. I think all of these things, these thoughts, these plans, solutions to them, we can really pull out at the retreat and utilize that time to just build out from there.
Yeah, okay, great. OEHR report?
Can you say what the OEHR is? Thank you.
I think as Diallo reminded us that we should try not to do yet, because we have at least 3 people who are brand new. So, yeah, we can't assume anything.
So good afternoon, good evening from OEHR. I'm Dante James, I'm the Director of the Office of Equity and Human Rights. First, congratulations and welcome to the new members and the reappointed members. I was lucky / fortunate to be in council chambers mid-morning for something else that I literally just walked into as there was going to be a vote for those commissioners, because it was designed to be on consent calendar, and then it was pulled from consent calendar. And so there was then discussion, and some folks from the audience offered some remarks and comments, so I then felt the need to go and support the affirmative vote by council for all the folks who were up for either appointment or reappointment. So, but what I also wanted to say was there were a couple very specific comments, specifically by Commissioner Fish, on his pleasure at what was started before about having liaisons to each of the commission offices, and the importance that certainly Fish gave to it, and the real sense of engagement and commitment and transparency that you felt in interacting with the HRC. So I would just really encourage you to maintain that, beef it up, do whatever makes sense, because I think that relationship building makes a difference. So just kind of informationally, our budget went in on Monday. So I'm getting more sleep, and the actual hearings don't start until March. I don't have a particular day yet. I think there is one scheduled. I just don't have it on the top of my head for when our budget goes for discussion before City Council. It'll be sometime in March. And in that regard, I would ask HRC, because I'm going to ask PCOD, Commission on Disability as well, to consider writing a letter of support for the budget, specifically because one of the budget requests from my office is for an additional staff person that would be a program assistant to work across programs in the office, which, after listening to some of the conversation and suggestions today, certainly about the website and updates and meetings, et cetera, would absolutely be something that I think we could do a better job of supporting. Excuse me. So the opportunity to have someone who is program support, because the office, nobody in the office has any program support. It's really no administrative support specifically. And so the idea of having someone who could freelance, and probably not the best word, but be able to be fluid between the various programs, I think would be beneficial to certainly HRC, and then Commission on Disability, and CPRC, other entities in doing the work. So I would just suggest maybe a possibility of drafting a letter of support for our request for a program assistant for the office.
Can I ask, when do you need that by, or when?
There's no, before March.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I know you're going to your retreat, so it could be something in conversation at your retreat, things like that. And then just as an FYI, I think many of you know that I and a couple of my staff facilitated some conversations subsequent to Ferguson for city employees. And over about a 2.5 month period, I think we did 4. And there were probably a total of over 200 city employees who came and participated in those conversations. And so they weren't designed to just be a venting session, but they were designed also to provide, one, a discussion and some venting, but a discussion really of some of the institutional systemic aspects to racism that really created the tinderbox that became Ferguson / New York / Cleveland / pick a city. And so it really engaged in that conversation. There were police officers there and just a wide variety of folks in the rooms. And then also to provide suggestions, recommendations on how to improve police-community relations. And so my commitment to the room was that I would compile that and present it to council, because council needed to hear from their employees. And so last Wednesday, I presented that at council, and actually it invited Chief O'Day to be at the table with me to do that, which he very readily agreed to. And so the presentation was made at council. I actually showed, I don't know if any of you have seen on our website, there's a 4-minute video after the first discussion that kind of set the tone and the context for the conversations. And presented that, the chief offered some thoughts and suggestions from his side, or just clarifications, if you will, sometimes. But it was, I mean, the feedback from council was excellent. Actually, I had Commissioner Novix came up in between the presentation and community remarks, and really complimented both the chief and I on the fact that we were here making this presentation, and he wanted to follow up on this and on some of the suggestions that were made. So I just thought it was very well received, and so I'm happy to send you what the actual document was that got presented, but just of interest.
Can I just offer that I was streaming the meeting that day, and I didn't know that you guys were going to be there. So then all of a sudden, look, there's Dante and all of the stuff you were talking about. And you did a great job, and it was great to just hear it and just reflect on some of the stuff that you offered and all the work that you and your team did with garnering all of those folks at those 4 meetings. So just kudos to you and the team. It was good to hear, and thank you for presenting it. I think, like Commissioner Novik said, it was probably a good thing for them to hear also.
Is this something that the CPRC was involved with? And why, if not, why not? Because it seems like that's...
I don't have a real good answer, except to say it was something that just popped into my head that needed to be done because of all the conversations in all the hallways that I was walking in, and the questions that people had of me, and it was clear that people needed a place to be able to discuss and vent and ask questions and describe their own thoughts and thinking. And so just from that was the genesis of, we were planning on having lunchtime discussions anyway on varieties of topics regarding institutional racism, ableism, etc. And so we had times already scheduled, and so I just said we will just plug into that first time that's already scheduled. And I hadn't planned on doing 4. I planned on doing the 1, but clearly 1 wasn't enough. And so it just flowed into the rest of them.
It was designed to specifically serve city
City
personnel.
City
Oh, city
employees.
employees.
Yeah, so
Okay,
it's
that's
people,
a clear-
we, yeah.
Yeah, no,
so
that's
the-
the clarification.
Yeah, the focus of the office is on
Yeah.
city.
No, I
report.
can totally see that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were members of the CPRC in
In
attendance.
attendance.
So the chair was there because I'm a city employee. Also, my day job. And Larry Graham was there. I think your Hart was there.
Wow.
And so, and I wanted to say that it was really, I've worked in city government, county government. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before. Maybe it's happened in the city before, but to where people could come during our lunchtime and have a really open and honest discussion about how they're feeling and what they're feeling and some of the things they're going through at work and in the community. And there were police officers there, there were, city employees, and a lot of those people were in the community. And I think you guys did a great job of, running the whole discussion, and just the way it was a comfortable environment. And I think that people felt comfortable saying, a lot of times when you're a city employee and you're going somewhere in a city building, on your lunchtime, you're not going to say how you really feel because your supervisor may be there. But I thought it was pretty open and an honest conversation. And I think there's a lot of good stuff that came out of it that we can build on. So kudos to the office and everyone who put that together.
And, I mean, there were bureau directors who attended, and like you said, other police officers. I mean, it was a wide variety. And one of the things, you'll see it on the video, but I asked everybody in the first meeting, how many of you have had a conversation about Ferguson? And everybody raised their hand. And then I said, how many of you have had an interracial conversation about Ferguson? And out of about probably 80 people in the room at that time, maybe 15 raised their hand, and I would say 10 to 12 of them were all black. And so clearly, we weren't talking to each other. And that was the biggest takeaway, I think, is that clearly we just weren't talking to each other. And we need to do better to be able to do that if we're going to understand each other's perspectives and what's really going on. So, that's all I have.
Okay.
Questions for me or anything? Thanks.
So the other thing that's going on is it blackmail
Achievement.
initiative or achievement? Okay, I didn't refer to, is initiative a different thing?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It's a program, it was an initiative from the National League of Cities called Blackmail Achievement Initiative.
Yeah, that's fine, okay.
And so we've decided, initiative sounds like it's a short-term thing.
Yeah.
So it's Blackmail Achievement Portland is how we, now the terminology for it.
Okay.
So it's a new program in the office as of December. And we did a press conference for it last week. The announcement. Good. Okay. Right. Okay.
Thank you. So, I don't want to take advantage of the fact that I know you're always here for every minute of the meeting. But can we push you back a little bit? About 15?
Oh, yeah.
Till after public comment? We're a little bit early, but I think that makes sense. There's a list for public comments. Do you want to introduce those names for me, us?
Yeah. The only person who marked yes is Charles Johnson. So are you calling for public comment now?
I am. Oh, backing me up then.
Let's do the old format.
There you go.
It's appropriate, I guess, I follow you. We're reversing the order from this morning. I was at council chambers when the consent agenda item was put on regular agenda. And so I want to say thanks and welcome to, especially to those who expedited the process of getting sworn in. Too bad there was a little bit more forethought to that since it's always the same day. Sometimes I've come to visit this commission meetings late because, as is the case today, with the West Quadrant Action Plan being discussed till God knows how late in city council chambers, that affects the ability of some people to participate with this group. When I spoke, the citizen that was speaking beforehand was really caught up in some of the concerns that didn't directly relate to the agenda item of just appointments for the new returning commissioners regarding the sweeps of houseless or homeless people. And I think that might be one thing to address over the course of the year is to especially as human rights commissioners, you're supposedly a little better connected and communicated, because I think we've all been in a situation, not quite as often as Sam, but sometimes homeless people just disappear. And sometimes we know that's because it's a clear push because the city has decided that they need to work with the White Stag Building and Venerable Properties to maintain caution taping on public sidewalks for a year. And other times it's worse. There was the issue, the person who was speaking before me who went off agenda topic was talking about a person who's gone into the hospital and been in a coma, and there's some concern that the police were actually aware of his medical condition, but instead of providing any positive service, they just swept him from a park to a different bridge. And I'd also like for you in your internal discussions to think that last week there was talk about the $20 million for housing, and how well has the city taken advantage, for lack of a better phrase, of what the Human Rights Commission does to influence that discussion and work towards getting some good results there. Related to my remarks this morning after I spoke after the Office of Equity and Human Rights Director, or before rather, I think as you work getting staff support and something like that, I think it would be good if you really just have a paper calendar type log that's up here with the minutes that simply shows the name of every commissioner and which meeting they were present at and which meeting they weren't able to make it, and you can have a mark next to it that says E for the excused absence and other. Ideally, that would be on the web. You know, we're 15 years into a new millennium now. But you know, I think one benchmark you can set is to try and outdo the city council of those 5 commissioners as far as transparency and availability of information. It's a challenge because we know that our mayor has Gail Shibley and Jackie Dingfelder clicking $80,000 a year in there, and you don't have those people. But it's something to aspire to anyway. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we maybe spend a little time talking about students, or should we say that and save that for another committee?
I would say, yeah, if you want to add that to HRTF, okay,
Because this just happened today.
yeah, okay, sounds good. So as an update, Lisa Graham texted me and she's not gonna be able to make it. 70+ people had signed up to testify some item today, so we have a little more time so far. But, so what makes sense to me is that, that we hear from Joe around the Joint Terrorism Task Force item happening tomorrow. And like I said,
So you essentially just switch the agenda items,
Yeah.
public comment and JTTF, because that puts you almost back on track.
oh,
You
good.
slot in JTTF at 5:15,
Thank you for the math, Alan.
I think.
And we passed around the 2011 report.
Want me
Can
to-
you chair? Yeah, or we can pull a chair up here, wherever is more comfortable for you.
I'll sit over here and turn this just slightly. And my name's Mike, but sometimes I go by Joe, anybody, when I'm out filming and doing activism, just so there's no confusion for the new people. But this is a report that we're going to read, Copwatch is going to be reading to City Council tomorrow regarding the joining back with the JTTF. And it's probably about a 3-minute little thing to read. At last year's reading of the week annual report, Commissioner Fish, Novick, and Fritz indicated that they would back the mayor for pulling out of the JTTF if they were not given security clearance. Now it seems the council may be okay with the mayor merely receiving briefings from the FBI. The issue with the JTTF has always been that our mayor is the police commissioner, and it is his responsibility to be sure that our officers are conducting themselves consistent with the U.S. Constitution, Oregon law, and local policies. If he cannot review the daily work of these officers, we can't hold them accountable. Having more insight is not the same as having oversight. Resolution 1 calls to repeal the existing resolution, but retains the requirement for the chief to have security clearance and allows participation when there is specific knowledge of immediate threat of harm. This is really the same as the case-by-case basis established in 2011 resolution. The mayor continues to have at least 2 briefings a year from the FBI. The resolution doesn't call to remove the officer's security clearance who are already available to work with the FBI, but it removes the annual reporting requirement. Resolution 2 calls for the Portland to assign 2 full-time officers to be part of the JTTF. The mayor will get quarterly or more frequent debriefs from the FBI. There's no reporting requirement. The attached contract with the FBI requires officers participating in the JTTF to follow the FBI rules, which are far more relaxed than Oregon's. It's a mistake to assume the FBI's terrorism task forces are designed to make communities safer when the FBI has created as many or more fake terrorism scenarios than the suspects they're tracking and often entrapping. The FBI has a long history of investigating people for their political beliefs and after 9/11 for their religious beliefs. The investigations lead to mistrust in the community, so that even if people have been willing to come forward with information about suspicious activity, now they likely are afraid of the consequences. The prime example is Mohammed's father calling for the FBI to help, and his 20-something son ending up being set up and convicted for a fake plot created and funded by the FBI, and he's now facing 30 years in prison. Portland needs to keep being the leader of this issue. When the Portland Cop Watch first brought the JTTF to the council's attention in 2000, then Commissioner Hales remarked that the task force mission statement sounded like something out of the Nixon era. The next year, shortly after 9/11, Hales voted against the participation in the JTTF. At the same time, under Mark Croker, the most militaristic chief we've seen in our 23 years as an organization, the Portland Police refused to participate in the broad interrogations of Arab and Muslim community conducted by the FBI. In 2005, Mayor Tom Potter, a former police chief, took Portland out of the JTTF because, as commissioner, he cannot supervise the JTTF officers without security clearance. That situation has not changed, despite the proposed contract stating that appropriate supervisory personnel responsible for the police officers involved in the JTF must apply for and receive a top security clearance. There seems to be a trend going in City Hall when there's a controversy, don't raise the bridge, lower the river. When we have, for example, when we have 2 affordable housing units in the South Waterfront, the solution is to lower the goal rather than increase the number of units. When no solution to a street fee is clear, force the public to vote on one of the many options. When the annual reports on terrorism task force are inadequate, don't demand more information, just get rid of the reports. We've always said there's a real threat to public safety, not one manufactured by the FBI, that the police obviously should work with the FBI to investigate and prevent harm, but there's no real mechanisms to ensure that the only situation they'll work together. Unless there's fundamental reform on the federal level, including an end to the restrictions on saying, for instance, how many times they've opened up investigations, there's no way Portland can be active part of the JTTF. From the point of view of our parent group, Peace and Justice Works, if the U.S. would end its foreign policy that generates militant violence against the U.S. and its allies, we would not even be having this conversation. And our position was to just encourage you to appealing the rejoining of that, the JTTF, and not being involved with it.
Thank you.
Where can I find that on the website?
This is going to be read tomorrow by Portland Cop Watch at the City Council meeting.
We might be able to take copies of it right now.
I'm thinking it is available for copies. I'm sure.
Okay.
I've read it on the record. It's being entered. So.
Okay, great.
Can I just ask a question of clarification?
Yeah.
So there's a move right now to join, for Portland to join to rejoin.
To rejoin.
Okay, and that's what you are asking us to basically support not joining?
Not to rejoin, yes.
Okay.
Like you did in 2011.
Okay.
You guys came out and made a statement. We're hoping that maybe there would be some kind of a follow-up, or the commission revisiting that and having an opinion on that.
Can I ask you, Michael, you talked about 2 resolutions, so there are 2 council resolutions that are going before council tomorrow?
That's what it looks like to me.
Resolution
Yeah,
1 and
1 and
resolution
2.
2? So it sounds like there are 2 alternatives for us, for the city of Portland to proceed with the JTTF, neither of which, so it sounds like they're eliminating the annual reports.
That sounds like what's happening in one of them.
And in either case, that we're asking the mayor to get top security clearance so that he can monitor the activity of the officers. And in the second resolution, it sounds like we're being asked to assign 2 officers to the task force.
Yep.
So my guess is that we can look at the city council website and see the resolutions, and there might be some background information, but that, I wasn't aware that that's what's going on.
So,
Is this a
So I don't know
vote
if
taken
is there a
tomorrow?
period?
No, I take it back. I don't think it's a vote tomorrow. It's discussion tomorrow with vote scheduled later.
It's maybe
the
next one.
items are 146, and the language actually says, City of Portland shall not enter into a memorandum of understanding. Then 147 is shall enter into a memorandum of the local JTTF. So, you know, the public pressure, they're asking you to support 146 and oppose
Right.
147, I think.
Support 146, which is to remove ourselves from JTTF, and 147 sounds like it's an alternative plan for our participation in JTTF. So just
Two
So
resolutions.
the actual vote is not happening tomorrow, so we would have time to support it.
Hold on one second, that's what we're trying to
The
clarify.
vote may happen next Wednesday.
May not, will not happen Thursday, but may happen next
The
Wednesday.
resolutions will be introduced tomorrow and then maybe appear before.
Question.
And one, I have a quick question. I want to get all the data we can before we dive into more. Has anyone in the room worked on this 2011?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't respond to your email.
Okay.
The answer is no.
You did
not.
not? Okay.
So the person that would have been would be Malloy,
Abdul.
Maria Lisa, and Abdul, I believe, that worked on the piece that you see in front of you, which is the commission's original analysis of the city of Portland Hero joining the JGTF.
Okay.
So that's where this came from.
So we have a number of pieces of information that we could work with, and it sounds like opportunities are for tomorrow, if people are able to be there and have some prep time. And there also will be opportunity later during the vote, during the schedule of the vote. Is that a true understanding? We're not sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. What time is that tomorrow?
5.
So, yes.
I just have an information question. Where is the impetus coming to rejoin? Who's advocating that? Is anybody?
My sense it would be members of law enforcement who feel that, so JGTF is the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, that it's a,
And also the culture of the city council's changed since last
right,
time too.
that, what are they
There's
rejoining?
there's 2 commissioners that have already come out to support it.
Supporting it?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Fish and, I wanna say Saltzman. It's the mayor and Novik who haven't said anything.
Oh,
And Amanda has said she wants to hear more from the public, and she's likely to vote no.
I mean, I just remember back to Tom Potter. It was controversial and courageous that he made that decision at the time. So I just wondered what had changed or who was
It's a
pushing
good
it.
question.
And I think it came for vote right around the Christmas tree incident where Mohammed, there was a revote to join back in. And so they did join back in right after that incident.
I've just a question. So, like I know, like after 9/11, for example, when the Director of National Intelligence was created and intelligence agencies were aligned to report to that person. For example, an Attorney General reports to both the DNI and like one other person. So I'm just curious as to why the second resolution isn't amended to include language around the mayor and one other supervisor within PPB to have security clearance. Why is that not there? I mean, why is it solely these 2 officers directly reporting to the FBI? I'm just, well, I mean, it just seems like there's that resolution and then there's resolutions not to join, but I've never really understood why is there not the importance of the security clearance piece.
Good question.
Well, I think in the past, there's been some issue around the mayor being able to obtain certain, that top level of security clearances.
That was the case with Sam.
That was it, yeah. So I don't know if it is with Hales or not.
Should we vote supporting or not supporting?
Well, what would make sense to me is that there's somebody who can action lead this. Ideally, I would say tomorrow, or as a second option, preparing for either communication to city council directly or in chambers next week.
I cannot do it.
What do you mean by leading?
Yeah, we haven't introduced you to our action process
Right.
model. We coined this term action lead to identify the person or group of people who will carry forth an action. So, for example, if Damon wanted to say, yeah, I'm happy to run with that, and with whoever wants to work on that with me, he would be in charge of making sure that it went through the proper procedures to get that taken care of. To action.
I can't either, and to me, I mean, this, to me, there might be a clear connection. You know, that would be the place, I think, that has potentially less CPRC because it is the nature of CPRC. Potentially, the nature of clear lends itself more.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say, but I think it's tough, the turnaround is tough, because there's a lot of kind of onboarding knowledge that came with this report.
Yeah,
You know, you
they
look,
did it.
there's a list of reports here that are extensive, and I provided comment on this, we read all these reports, and they're all national level reports on national security, basically.
Wait, you've read all of these?
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Has
don't
anybody
read, I
else
don't read
on
it cover to
the
cover, but we have access to it.
Right.
And this
Has
is a letter.
anybody else on the HRC read these?
That's what
I probably have, they're on the web, almost all are on the web.
Do you have a position,
I've read
Alex,
some, I've read some.
in having looked at this and whether or not you would recommend
Well, the problem,
joining or not?
I don't know what the resolutions are, I'd have to look at what what's actually being proposed. And so, but I think I have the same position that I would have at the same time, and the same position that I think would come from a human rights, civil rights perspective, is that essentially there are too many possibilities for abuse for this to be a good idea, right? And so, especially if what I'm hearing is correct, when we're taking out sort of any of the small possibilities for oversight, it's what it seems like it's happening today. And not only is it seem like a bad idea, but there are specific Oregon statutes related to what information Oregon law enforcement officers can keep. And there's no way for the city to determine whether or not that's happening at the JTTF, the FBI. The FBI used to collect all kinds of information on political operatives, blah, blah, blah. And there's no way for us to know whether or not that's happening at JTTF. That's my understanding. There's no way for it to happen now. It sounds like it would get worse under Resolution 157. So
Yeah.
that might be the mechanics of it. The specifics, I don't.
Yeah.
I'll just say, for the record, I do not support rejoining. I just can't do it because I have to work.
Yeah.
So just want to make that clear. I don't support
So,
rejoining. but-
I can't attend tomorrow, nor will I have the time between now and tomorrow to prep something, but I could work with somebody for the following week, if somebody else is interested. One option is to, one option is to revisit this and identify what things may or may not have changed. Probably not a whole lot has changed, and this could be reintroduced, or a big section of this could be reintroduced. Yeah.
Oh, well, it just seemed to me like since you have the knowledge, I know, I don't want to volunteer you, but is it possible even that you could write just your opinion on it and we could, no, okay.
Okay.
I don't know how, how that works.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
But I think what is possible is exactly what you said, Amy, is for us essentially is to get this back out and turn it back in and say, I can't imagine that anything has changed or frankly gotten better from 2011. It seems like what you're proposing is going to make it worse. So what this list is, for instance, if you look at some of these documents are sort of national cases of abuses by the FBI in civil rights. So again, it's not like that's gotten better. And the problem is we don't know because there's no information. So there's just no way it can get better. And whether or not we should join or rejoin is sort of a different story. But I think from our perspective, it's just, this isn't a good civil rights and human rights idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of that simple.
And another option is calling commissioners, that's always available. And if somebody feels compelled to do that, again, it's not that you can make a statement yet for the commission, but you can as an individual, yeah.
I think that maybe not having, well, we can have a liaison, but I think that it should still stay HRC level focus. just because of how meaty it is. And we should come up with some type of letter, whether it's using this document or coming up with something new or something like that, so that individual commissioners can say how the commission feels about this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with what Alan has said and, and what Sam has said. I don't think we have to get too detailed, but
Right.
I'm comfortable saying the Human Rights Commission is not comfortable with or supportive of rejoining. I mean, I'm comfortable with just the information I've got today, because what
Yeah.
Alan just said kind of like got it for me. That's all I really need. I mean, like digging too far is not our job. And so I'm just saying that's, I would be comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to hear
We just lost our quorum, is that true?
But that's okay.
To,
No.
well, not if we want to make a vote, take a vote.
There's 7 people here.
Okay.
There's 7.
Okay, good.
That's how.
So another thing we could do, and indicating what Marcia's introducing, is we could vote to make an HRC communication to be determined to City Council that our position is that we are not supportive of rejoining. And then I can volunteer to, maybe you can work with me on that, to put something together, and we might be able to make a phone call or 2 tomorrow, or 4 or 5 tomorrow, and then follow up with a document.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it
So
can be really
moved.
simple too.
Yeah.
It seems to me.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I
Move.
go, you do it, great.
I'm gonna, yeah, I'm moved for that to
Hey, I think that Amy said.
happen. I thought I could get away
So-
with it.
You can do it.
Yeah, me and Amy are going to do it. Wait, do I have to say the whole thing? Okay, I move for Amy and I to work together on coming up with a statement for this and making a couple phone calls tomorrow.
Which is saying not to rejoin.
Yeah,
recommends
to not, rejoin
Statement that,
terrorist
that
task force.
the HRC has not changed its position from 2011 for this document,
Yeah,
and we do not support joining HGTF.
good.
And whatever else you might find in the resolution, current resolution.
So at minimum, that can be submitted in mail to the council, and at maximum, if somebody was willing to make the statement.
Yeah, I'm hearing that there's nobody available to show up tomorrow. But if there's not a vote tomorrow, which is what I believe I read, that there'll be a vote Wednesday.
But isn't
With
that
other-
what Marcia said, that she's willing to read something?
Did you mean for tomorrow?
No, or
Well-
for Wednesday?
I just thought if we could get something, if something was drafted up and we could submit it tomorrow, that would be something that they would have as part of.
But we're asking, are you available to show up and do that?
Oh, I don't think I'm quite ready to do that.
Okay.
I just gotta jump in, Marcia.
So,
I want to be asked questions about it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
what.
understand. I think we need to move on, but,
Motion. Did you motion?
yeah, I did that.
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Damon, how are you voting?
Damon, how are you doing?
Yeah, don't you have to finish the process and then
Are you
Is it
abstaining?
days? Well, you've done
Are you
days yet, so
abstaining?
you got the
Oh,
eights?
sorry.
Days?
That was what kind of vote was that, though? I wasn't sure.
Nay.
Okay, good.
Did you get the count?
So 2 nays?
I got 6 yeas and no, and 1 nay.
Okay.
What's the other nay?
What was the
There was
reason
only
for
one
the
name, right?
Well,
Yeah, 1 nay. What was the reason?
No.
that he wanted to vote in?
Yeah, one more nice one.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to.
So the motion passes.
Motion passes.
Over civil liberties.
And
Is that what you believe?
we don't have to explain our name.
No.
That could open up a whole can of worms to us.
But it could get us onto the same page too.
Yeah.
So could be good or bad, I guess.
You can ask for deeper discussion, but you can't.
Is Salome here?
Yeah.
She is.
You look different from your photo. I didn't recognize you.
Maybe I'm tired. I don't know how to explain that.
Okay, I'm gonna move us right along to our 5:30. We're just a little bit behind. Damon, do you want to make the introduction to this next piece?
So Nomai Chimuku works for the Center for Intercultural Organizing, or CIO. She's also the political director there. She's a point person on the in-profiling bill, which she will talk more about, which will be put to the legislature at this session. And I believe this, one of the key sponsors is State Representative Liv Frederick, is that accurate?
Him, Senator Thompson, in Hood River, Senator Edwards and Eugene,
Okay.
and Senator Buckley and Nashville.
So you can come on up. Okay.
So Tom means
So-
that she had me go to the opposite side of the room, and you could be on this place to get your swallow can. Alright. So, over here.
Here's right there.
Okay.
Or here. Either one.
I'm not this far, right? Hi, my name is Salome Chimuku. Sorry I came a little late, it's commuting from Salem. So I guess I'll just start. You should have a document in front of you that I submitted, which is just a simple one page on the legislation that we're hoping to introduce. It, or you may not.
It was distributed electronically, I think.
Yeah.
I was like, or you may not have it in front of you. I could have been told.
I'll just bring it down.
Someone printed it out.
I killed the tree and printed it out.
Hey, we're not trying to save trees in this bill.
Trying to save lives.
You're right, exactly. This is saving lives. Trees, I'll save them if there's an opportunity to do so. Lives first. So, very much so, these three bills are looking to catch us up to the rest of the nation in terms of policy around profiling. One of the things I'd like to mention to start off with is the first thing that one of the bills does is just simply define profiling in statute. We're one of 5 states that doesn't have a definition in statute, which, as you know, sets a very strong tone to the community when you don't have in statute a protection and prohibition of profiling in the first place, because then we're essentially saying that profiling is legal in the state of Oregon by not having it in statute. So we're correcting that. Most states had a definition in place starting in the 80s and 90s, so we're a bit behind the trend, if you will. We kind of missed it. We're kind of doing it now. And in the bill, I'd like to also mention that the bill goes beyond racial profiling. It defines profiling as solely stopping someone based off their race, their faith, their gender, their sexual orientation, their religious affiliation, and perceived mental illness. And so what that means essentially at the end of the day is that you shouldn't stop someone unless they're actively committing a crime or a traffic violation or infringement. Simple stuff that most of our law enforcement already does on the regular basis. The second piece of the legislation is looking at collecting data around pedestrian and traffic stops. And what essentially this does is that the data helps us keep track of the numbers in correlation with the population which law enforcement serves. So the numbers for someone in Northeast Portland look very different than someone out in Madras in terms of their population demographics. So we want to make sure that that reflects that by collecting that data to make sure that law enforcement is within what we would call a reasonable amount of leeway based off the population which they serve. So even within the city of Portland, someone's numbers for probably inner East Portland will look different than someone who's patrolling out in Southwest Portland in terms of the threshold number. And what happens is that, let's say we have, just to use a flagrant example, let's say we have a law enforcement agent who is patrolling an area in which
Latino Americans make about 2% of the community in which they patrol. And yet their stops consist of 15% Latino American. At that point, what would happen is that a number of things would happen. First, the first thing you do is that the data collection warehouses, CJC, the Criminal Justice Commission, would look at the complaints and see who filed the complaints, when they were coming in, and see the time frame in which they got to that threshold where 20% of their stops were now Latino Americans, even though it makes up 2%. And see, okay, well, do these complaints kind of follow the same story, or do they seem consistent with one another to associate these complaints are filed correctly? And if they do find that that's the case, the first thing that happens is that the person in question, the officer, would get a notification saying, hey, we've noticed that you have a lot of stops going on of this particular nature. We want you to know that complaints have been filed, and we want to know what exactly is going on, as well as the supervising officer. So if there is a profile that they're working on that is within regulation of state statute, that at that point they'd be recommended that they put out a PSA or work with the community to find who they're looking for, so the community doesn't feel like they're being targeted, and opens the community door of communication. However, the thing though is that once they are notified, their supervising officer is notified, as well as the oversight agency. So in case of a sheriff, the deputy would get a notification, their supervising officer would get a notification, as well as the county commissioners, alerting them that there's this issue going on, or this miscommunication between law enforcement and the community in which they're trying to serve. And of course, always supervising officers will have the first, or be the first to sign up to seek remedy actions, whether that be that they put out that PSA I mentioned, or if they realize the person doesn't have a profile they're working on, but getting these complaints legitimately off of no profile, then working with that officer to figure out what's going on. Maybe it may be taking a course at DPSST, taking a different sort of training.
What's DPSST?
The Department of Public Safety Standards. So they're the ones who accredit the trainings that law enforcement take in the state of Oregon.
So states and Oregon agencies.
Yeah.
State board agencies.
Yeah, and so there's many different avenues in which a supervising officer can go in terms of trying to remedy the situation or get an understanding. And but in cases where, let's say, the supervising officer fails to do so, they just blatantly choose not to do anything, or the supervising officer is that person, and they choose not to do anything about how they're coming off to the community. At that point, the CJC, the Attorney General's office, will make recommendations like, we recommend you do this, here's some other things that you can look into, we'll help you find the resources to remedy the situation. But let's say in cases where we do have a situation where it becomes a high profile situation and folks might be charged with something, that's where those datas and that complaint collection really come in handy in terms of looking at what really happened and what is going on and what kind of got us to this position. And like I said, we're definitely not doing anything new. We're really catching up. Most other states have very rigorous Attorney General's office with a lot more civil rights attorneys that are years beyond where we are right now, and we're kind of slow in getting in the game. But I think that it's really important, especially in the state of Oregon, where we have so many different levels of law enforcement, that honestly, the way we've been doing things right now isn't working for us. We see that you have the Internal Police Review Board, but in places out in Newburgh or in Southern Oregon, it's just, you file a complaint with the supervising officer, but there's no real look to see if there's systemic trends within an agency or within an individual. And so it unfortunately leaves us with this community perception about all law enforcement, instead of looking at law enforcement as individuals doing their jobs. And just like in any other profession, there's individuals that are there for the right reasons, and there's individuals who should choose a different profession. And in Oregon, since we don't collect that data, since we don't watch it, since we don't have mandatory competency training, we can't distinguish in terms, or from the community perspective, we can't distinguish law enforcement from one another. We just lump them together, so there's no difference between a Portland police car and like a sheriff's car or a trooper's car, and people would just call them all cops. And you think they're one and the same and interchangeable when quite honestly they're not. So this legislation looks to, one, catch us up in statute land in terms of having a definition of profile in the statute that 45 other states have agreed is a good definition of what profiling is, and to get us to a place where we have a system where folks don't have to become miniature junior paralegals to figure out who it is they need to complain to when they feel like they have been mistreated by a law enforcement agent. But also a place where we can have that data to not only look at how we're doing in terms of stops and if things are getting better, but also the data in other states has been used to see the value in those cultural competency trainings, to see which trainings are actually deterring the behavior and which ones are maybe making it worse.
Is there anything in the legislation that requires transparency, that it would be available, the data would be available to the community?
So the data that would be available to the community would just solely be how many complaints a particular department has gotten. I wouldn't be able to, as a member of the public, see how much an individual law enforcement agent has gotten, and vice versa. The agencies can get numbers on their deputies, but they can't see necessarily what communities they're filing. So if I was a sheriff, I couldn't tell my deputies like, oh, you in particular, most of your complaints come from the African American community. I could just tell them, this is how many complaints you've gotten over this X amount of time.
But just to use your example, if like you were collecting the data, and in the example you used there, 15% of the community were Latino arrests.
Yeah, that'd be used for the notification process,
Right.
but I mean, in terms of like...
Would that data be available to the public?
The data that be available to the public is that the public could ask which precincts have gotten notifications of investigation or maybe notifications of behavioral problems. So I would be able to see like, okay, my precinct, there was 2 letters sent to them of notification around profiling. But I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell which deputies got them or which law enforcement agents got them, and from what communities, because again, it's for the protection of the folks remaining anonymous to the law enforcement agents themselves about who filed, but also keeping the law enforcement agents as well protected from, we don't want a situation where an officer has been notified of something going wrong, but then that information getting to the public before an investigation has been fully gone through.
You listed some demographics. Are those demographics that are going to be tracked or watched or protected, and does it include homeless population?
Yeah, so to answer the easiest one first, yes, it does include homeless populations by housing status.
Okay.
Second question, whether or not we go through and track the data of which demographics in the reports versus as they come into the complaints, that's to be hashed out in the legislature whether or not they decide those that data would be analyzed in that way outside of the notification process. And then that comes with, do we have the funds, do we have the software, do we have, are we capable of doing that? That question. But I can answer that in other states they do bring it down to that level.
What are the bills at right now?
The bills right now are in Judiciary Committee. The Judiciary chairs on both sides are Senator Przonski in Eugene and Senator Jeff Parker, Representative Jeff Parker, who represents ALOA, unincorporated lawyer. Yes. Yeah, so those bills have been scheduled for hearings near the end of February is when they're anticipating that, but right now they're doing a bunch of informational sessions. There's no real, besides bills that have been in the building for 10 years, there's no bills being heard at this moment, not any of the newer legislation anyway.
And have you guys gained any support from any law enforcement agencies?
Not like entire agencies, but some law enforcement agents, like individual on a personal level, have shown support, mostly because
I mean, some of the opinions I've heard are just the idea of getting law enforcement on a plane of being looked at as individuals as opposed to just lumps or a club of people, if you will, but also the idea of having systems in place, because quite honestly, when you're in a situation where you're trying to do something similar as a captain of a precinct or as a supervising officer, it's really up to you to collect all those stories and that anecdotal evidence if you choose to or want to discipline someone in your ranks. But right now, there's nothing to support you in doing that without the data or without storing that information on your own.
Do you think those on the ones who support would be willing to testify?
I could not answer that question for them. I would have to ask them. I mean, I don't think they are necessarily law enforcement agents that, I think it's kind of too early to anticipate whether or not they'd be willing to testify. Because in the hearing cases, the bills probably might change. There might be amendments proposed, so it's hard to say whether or not someone's willing to testify until I ask them in that very moment, can you testify right now, or do you feel comfortable doing so? But, yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be good to, I mean, I can assist if you approaching some of the law enforcement agencies, you know, the superintendent of state police, individuals like that, to have a conversation with them prior to those hearings to see where they stand and if they would support.
Yeah, and I think that my experience with just going around the state and talking to different law enforcement agents, I find that it's a lot easier to talk to them individually one-on-one, because it's never, I mean, in any walk of life, never safe to assume anything,
Right.
and just individual basis level. But I mean, there are some that definitely are supportive and are in constant communication with me and talking about what's happening, what's going on, and I encourage you know, talk to others as well and to do that same open communication back and forth.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
That was easy.
Well,
You're easier than a committee chair.
I have a question. So is there something you would like us to do?
I mean, honestly, I would say the greatest thing to do is, you know, if any of this interests you on a personal level, please talk to me. There's definitely different things that can go on. And like I said, the whole committee process is public, it's open to the public. And so, you know, just keeping that constant communication around amendments, weighing in when you'd like to weigh in, seeing your opinion voiced, and trying to get to a space where folks feel like we have something that can work for us here in Oregon would be awesome.
Yeah, and keep us in mind if you want to come back and give us an update, particularly when there might be more a different action item we can do.
Great.
Do you have contact information for the card?
Yeah, I have a couple of cards. Unfortunately, earlier today, most of my cards met a demise with the puddle. They lost a fight with a puddle, the one puddle in the street. So I have a couple of cards that I was able to salvage. I'm not sure if I have enough for the entire room, but my contact info is on the bottom of that page.
Yeah.
David has it.
David has it, Emmanuel has it.
CIO has it.
CIO has it, I'm on the internet, my cell's on the internet.
Marcia has a question.
Yeah, I was at the race talks last night at Jefferson High School, and there was something that came up about legislation being proposed about defining when it's legitimate to use force. And there's like, to say, rather than the way it's written right now, that whenever a police officer thinks they're in danger or they're likely.
Right, I mean, there's about,
But I think.
I'd say there's about 27 bills that deal with
All right.
law enforcement. I think the common theme that we're seeing in the legislature, and this is just off the first 3 days, honestly, is folks are looking for different things that I would say isn't necessarily just something that just tears apart something that currently exists. They're looking for things in which we can safeguard for accountability. That's what really folks are looking at in the
I think this
legislature.
one, the one that was mentioned was like introducing the language of reasonable.
Yeah, and I think that
like I said earlier, I think it's about the accountability measure, because we've seen other states what happens when you have laws that are passed such as body cams or things about what is legal force and what's illegal force kind of fall through the wayside if there's no accountability measures in the policy about like, this is what the process looks like, this is what will happen if X thing occurs. And I think that they're looking at all those things through that lens, trying to figure out like, well, if we do this, what accountability measures will we have to put in place to make sure we get the intention that we want and not end up in a situation where we have something in HD film that we don't need in HD film, essentially. It's a nice way of putting it.
So you guys don't like that.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of the feeling I'm getting from the legislators. I mean, I'm not a legislator, but that's kind of the tone and the lining of questioning is what in this, what out of all the bills that have to do with law enforcement, the first question is, what in this has any accountability measures to make sure that what you're trying to get to happen is what ends up happening?
Well, you've explained it all very well.
Yeah.
And by the way, you were not late, we were.
Alright, I'm glad to hear it that I'm not late for the first time. Alright, I don't know, I'll have my cards on me, so if anybody would like one, I'm more than happy to pass them out. If not, I will hope to hear from you all later. Awesome.
Okay, retreat planning is next, and your retreat planning team includes Diallo and Shabri, and who else?
Rebecca.
And Rebecca. Do you have anything that you can share that you need
Yeah.
from us?
So on the 14th of January, Rebecca sent a email asking, I'm gonna actually just send it to you all again. It was a retreat planning survey, and so it's a Google Doc survey for everybody to fill out about what we want to cover on the retreat. I'm gonna resend it to you because I don't think everybody filled it out. And okay, yeah, you're gonna get it now because I don't think you, yeah, because I didn't that first time anyway. So, sent. So when you guys get it, please take the survey and we can continue planning.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we don't have a date set or a location set. Lisa Gramp was gonna tell us today whether or not we could do it as a non-public meeting. So we'll have to get that information from her some other way. So I'll work on that. How's that?
Yeah, and the date isn't set because like some of the questions are, how long do you think it should be? And et cetera. So yeah, we're gonna be able to go through it once we get feedback.
I think if you read it,
Yeah?
and it's been run by city staff, is if you are not doing business, you just cannot do any business or decisions can come out of the retreat.
That's how I understood it.
That's generally what we understood. Thank you.
But can I ask a point of clarification? So if we're planning for the next year, how do we not make a decision?
So we need to get this direct from the horse's mouth, but basically, we did a retreat where we just worked on internal structure stuff. Not stuff about policy or stuff about recommendations to be made.
Okay.
Issues to work on, but not any, like, taking a position on anything.
Well said.
We had a series of them a few years ago with Mark Fuller as part of our assessment, and one of the pieces was a retreat at the firehouse in North Portland. That was a whole day thing.
Yeah, it was not
That's
public.
true, yeah.
So if we wanted to plan or think about the priorities for the next year, what kind of meeting do we do that at?
That can be a non-public meeting.
That could be at the retreat.
Yes.
But we just can't make decisions?
Yes.
Yeah, we
You
can't.
can make a decision about a position on a policy. You can say, we want to work on housing and traffic.
Okay, I see. So we can set priorities and what we want to do in the next year. We just can't
Right.
form a position about, okay, fine.
Right.
We can't start talking about JTTF at the retreat.
Okay,
This is what we're
thank
gonna do.
Yeah, and it's kind of a fine line. We had to be somewhat careful. Ellen was good about keeping us on track with that. And it's doable, I think. And again, we'll get a good language from Lisa. Okay, anything else about retreat? Great. So, wow, I'm excited about this. We might have time to do something different. Okay, so I'm giving 2 more minutes to committee reports to allow for what Dale requested. And we have announcements. I'm gonna give 5 minutes to announcements, and then we wanna do a couple minutes with race talks. So let's start with the race talk report.
You want to do
Anybody-
HRTF first, because I'm gonna make it super quick.
No. No, I'm kidding. Sure.
The only update is, before, Jess Larson from the Welcome Home Coalition had come and talked to us about organization. And at the last meeting, we voted to endorse the Welcome Home Coalition, and we also have, as Suzanne and Audrey said, folks who are attending and working, actually as part of the coalition right now, and as part of the work that we're doing in housing. And an
Great.
update. If
That's-
you have more interest in what they're actually doing, you may speak with them individually.
And then there's gonna be, have you guys done a follow-up with the attendees of the forum?
We just met,
Okay.
last week or week before, and talked about what we want to do next.
Okay.
So we have not done that yet, but
Gotcha. And you wanted to add on homeless sweeps?
Yeah, and it actually wasn't related to the Housing Rights Task Force. I was speaking to Ibrahim about the Know Your Rights videos that Clear Committee is working on, and he mentioned sweeps were an incident that he would like to see modeled, and I know that it's probably hard to tackle, but there was just a sweep today, and it basically happens. I really would like to, I guess, get feedback on how we feel about it. It's not, I guess, a clear thing, but maybe I should just be announcing that it is a real problem for the population, that these sweeps happen, because it takes away their,
Can you
all
explain
of their.
what's happening?
Okay, yeah.
are they sweeps by PPB?
Yeah, sweeps
Part of the police
by,
bill?
yeah, sweeps by officers, and his exact words were that, there was supposedly a hold on sweeping, but the police are doing it anyway, and the city can stop the police from sweeping, but they aren't, and that the police, they take shopping carts, they'll use a reason that if the person doesn't have a receipt for what they have, that they can kind of just throw it away, or they dump it all out, and yeah, it's kind of a major problem, and it's happening daily, so.
Sweep meaning that the former police officers are coming into specific geographic areas of the
Yeah.
city, like under the Burnside Bridge, and
Yeah.
and kind of blanketly removing folks who are
Yeah.
resting there.
And I mean, it's something that we were thinking about with the video, but I mean, to be honest, I wonder if it's something that the commission could actually even take a stand on, because I feel like it's something that we could take a stand on and say like, oh, this is an issue.
Yeah. I don't know if that has happened before with HRC. I don't remember
Not with
a
sweeps.
sweep specific.
Can I ask, who's instigating this? I mean, is this an attempt, it's an attempt to clean up supposedly some area?
Yeah.
And for what
That's a
purpose?
justification.
Yeah, my assumption on things I've heard floating around are that it affects business. And so, yeah.
But I guess, is this individual officers just deciding that this is what they're going to do? Because you said it's not supposed to be happening, but it is.
I think that's information we don't
Yeah.
have at hand, if they have orders, if it's part of the day or evening plan, or if it is just individual initiative.
Yeah.
And that, so,
Take
The
more
sweeps make it sound, I'm sorry.
it's okay, that question is important to me, because as a commission of the city, we have different access. So we could, I call it an investigation, we could inquire, do some research to
Yeah.
find out. That might be a very effective way for us to use our position.
Yeah.
Like a letter of inquiry.
A meeting,
Why are you in this?
yeah,
And to me, it's a good role, and Sam's out of the room, for CPRC, because Sam also might have insight. You don't know if Sam's day job is a park trainer.
Right.
Yeah.
So he might know if there are, you might know the logistics about what's going on, because I would think it's very coordinated, especially related to downtown.
Right, because sweeps doesn't sound like an individual, it sounds like a concerted effort.
More than one person. Yeah, so let's move this into some action. And do you want to take an action lead
Sure,
with
yeah.
that?
I'd
I'm
most
happy to
definitely.
help myself and maybe others from HRTF would be.
Cool.
And there you
So,
go. Thank you.
so yeah.
Do you want to receive any other public input on this item for a couple minutes?
Sure, does anyone want to give?
I know that Courtney just come in and just signed
Yeah,
up.
I
and
noticed
I
Courtney
think there are
was here.
members here, who
Yeah.
have- or public, members of the public who might have insight into this issue.
Yeah. Would you like me to come up or am I good here?
Whatever's
Whichever
most
you're-
comfortable.
Whichever you prefer.
Yeah.
We do have just a couple minutes, I'm afraid.
I'm running. I know you can't tell, but I have leg braces on, I'm running.
I meant more like once you sat down.
Oh, sit.
Yeah, take a seat.
Hi, everybody. I've missed being here. I'm sorry I've been out with pneumonia, so I'm still healing, but glad to be here. I've missed you guys. Sweeps, especially the last week. I don't know if you're aware, but the homeless count was last week. It's supposed to be a one-night thing, but I have it on good authority from Join that they actually extended it a week. So theoretically, the police department is not supposed to move anybody during the count. Period, end of story. Nobody's supposed to be moved.
Could you say a little more about what the count is?
The homeless count is basically trying to come up with a number of how many people who are living out in the streets.
Who does it?
City, county effort that's done every other year, I believe, right?
Every year.
Is it done every year?
It's
Yeah.
every year, yeah.
In January.
And social service agencies report their numbers.
It's more than that. Some actually go out and count. There's people walking around asking, hey, we've been counted. Join goes into the back 40 in the woods and actually finds people, which I think is astounding for Join, actually getting out there and getting their fingers dirty. But I myself have been out on the streets, as some of you know, and been houseless. And the police department, it doesn't matter as far as the sweep goes. I've been under that pretty bridge, I don't know what the name of it is, over by OMSI. And with train tracks right in front of me with nothing but freight trains, and no businesses anywhere in sight, I mean, absolutely nothing. And been told by police officers in the driving rain or snow, you have to move because the businesses around you have complained. And I go, where? Really? And they refuse to name who it is, where it is. Frankly, I think they make it up. I really do. I mean, I'm sure that there are some businesses out there that do complain, but a lot of people have a heart. As long as if you're camped in a doorway and you're not making a big deal out of things or harassing people or throwing up on their sidewalk, a lot of business owners don't mind because a lot of houseless folks go to those places when there isn't, business happening and stuff like that because they don't want to be harassed by police officers more than they really are, which is quite a lot. But sweeps happen for any reason that they are planned and coordinated as far as I can tell. I'd love to climb into the hierarchy to find out that's true, but I'm pretty well convinced it is coordinated by Mayor Dales by attending some of the police meetings that I did last year before I got really ill. And the idea is to keeping people moving around and not letting them be comfortable. But, which I can understand, okay, a business doesn't want to have their business interrupted by having, somebody sitting in their doorway. But on the other hand, is it really necessary in the dead of winter to take all their belongings? And to get a sleeping bag, to get a warm coat, a blanket even, in the dead of winter, to keep it dry is a miracle. And to be able to have all that stuff and then have it suddenly taken away. I mean, it can take days or weeks to get all that stuff back. And as you know, there simply isn't enough help out here. So I think it's just a travesty
Okay, thanks, so, yeah, one last bit,
Are the police just taking things out of people's hands, or are these things left unattended and they're taking them away?
I can speak to some of that. If you, so it's kind of complicated. I think a couple of things. First of all, I'm wearing a couple of different hats. I'm a park ranger for the city of Portland as well. So as part of the street count, they're part of the last 2 street counts. Parks has a different policy on camping than I think the majority of the city does, in the sense that we've changed our policy around how we deal with campers. Used to be if you were covered up in a sleeping bag or a tarp, we would move you along. Now we don't. We don't do that. So I think there's the police. I'm not quite sure what their policies are, but I know that we have Parks has a contract with PPS in which we contact, if we contact a camp, then that PPS comes out to clean out the camp. And then they document, they take all the property. If the person's not there, then they move it, store it somewhere.
Who's PPS?
PPS is Portland Pacific Patrol Services, Pacific Patrol Services. So it's a security business that works with the police and parks. There's also the contract, I believe at times the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and the inmate work crew also work in coordination. So I guess what I'm getting at is, it's kind of, the commissioner has a stance on homelessness is kind of with the parks, and she's our commissioner, so we kind of follow her.
Commissioner Fritz.
Commissioner Fritz. We follow kind of where she's coming from. Yes?
Are you saying then that there is not necessarily consistency in the park, and if a park, for example, arranges because it's your protocol to not move someone along, but then PPD can come after you and then do the.
Not in the park.
Not in the park, they don't have jurisdiction in the park.
They
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think, and I'm not speaking, I don't want to speak poorly of the Portland Police at all, but I do think there's an inconsistency on how camps are handled from different agencies in the city. And on I'm a human rights, speaking as a human rights commissioner, I think with, the sweep that just happened, there was a moratorium for, I think, a week up to and the week after, that people would not be moved along, so that they could stay in place. So I wanted to suggest, before I wrap it up, that I think we should consider, the Human Rights Commission should consider perhaps writing a letter to the mayor to maybe have a complete moratorium on moving people along in any part of the city camping until we have a legitimate action plan in place to move forward, in the next 6 months to a year to end houselessness. Because what you're describing is continual moving of people around. And some of them, they're camping in the park or they're camping somewhere else. They're not hurting anyone. They're not, and they have nowhere else to go. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, great, so we've got a couple of suggestions on the table. Mine was to do some investigation,
Right.
speak to members of the Bureau to identify what's going on here, so we better understand. And to me, that also serves a secondary purpose of we're paying attention, right? And then Sam is suggesting a letter, and I think both things can happen. So Diala's offered to do give me 1 second, sorry, to be action lead for that first piece. You two want to work together perhaps on the second piece?
Sure.
Okay,
I'd also like to work on it.
okay, great. Yes.
I'd just like to interject one more quick point. As far as the taking of belongings, the rule that I know of that exists in the police department is that belongings are to be taken if the officer considers them wet or dirty.
Wait, what law is that? I mean,
Well, something
is there?
something to look into.
Yeah.
Thank you for stepping up and giving us your information. All right.
I think that
Race
threw us
stops.
off course, but it was really important.
Yeah, it totally was.
Really very important.
We are good on time.
Race
Race talks. Somebody who attended want to.
Race Talks was, do you want to? No, go for it. So Race Talks was wonderful. There are venues there, there's Marcia. There?
Amanda was there.
Man, a lot of human rights commissioners were there. It was wonderful. There was probably 100 people. There was four or five different groups that broke out in different topics. Police stops, racial profiling. What were some of the other ones?
Grand jury.
Grand jury.
Community policing.
Community policing. And it was at Jefferson High School. There was a good mixture of police, human rights commissioners, community members, and I thought that it was really, really good discussion, facilitating different groups came back together, and I think they're gonna continue to have these kind of talks.
Also partnered with AMA.
Partnered with the AMA as well, yes, and Joanne Hardesty, the director of the NAACP, was there. So it was wonderful. Marcia did just an amazing job as a facilitator. Anybody else want to add to the race talk?
And as a testament to our new chief, though, he made sure that a lot of key commands, all the
Yes.
assistant chiefs were there.
Yep.
A lot of commanders were there, and
Yep.
that is unprecedented, actually.
And they all came in, there weren't any officers in uniform. Yeah. So the request had been made that they come in civilian clothes for the comfort level, and they, and I sent out a request, and they all showed up in their civilian clothes, so much so that some people didn't even know they were police officers, so.
Marcia, you had a question?
I just wanted to echo what Sam said. I was really impressed with it. And one of the things that I was wondering why or what the logistics were, I know Donna's gonna write up the summary of the various groups that spoke, what their recommendations or thoughts were, and it's gonna be posted on the AMA website and I think the police website. I was wondering that when, in light of the discussion we had earlier, if that wouldn't be something that would also be appropriate for us to have on our website. And it wouldn't be something we'd have to write, because Donna's writing it.
Yeah.
But
Do you want to help facilitate that? I think perhaps getting it to Kenya.
Well, I think it could be a good place, maybe, it could be the HRC with the CPRC page as well.
Just link to it.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So it basically would be getting it from Donna, but I'm happy to
Thank you.
do the action items.
Okay. Announcements. Kenya has, Emmanuel has. Anybody else have? You want to go first?
Thank you. HRC Commissioners, the Office of Equity and Human Rights is sponsoring a facilitation training for you guys. The Citywide Equity Committee and the Portland Commission on Disabilities. It's a joint training and it's a great opportunity for you guys to interact and interface with the people who are doing similar, not the same work within the city and around disabilities. That's gonna happen on February 11th, and it's from 9 to 1. Happens here in this room. It's gonna be a really good training. Our trainer is Tasha Harmon. She's done training for Home Forward, the county, as well as for Metro around facilitating and meetings. And I believe that what you'll learn here, you'll be able to bring back to this body, and it might help make these meetings more productive, more effective, more interesting for all of you. The other thing is the annual report. I'm not sure who's.
So I thought last month you said you were going to get us on the calendar
Yes,
for
I can't
April.
get you on the calendar until I know when you want to do.
Well, we asked for April.
There's 4 opportunities in April to be on the calendar.
I think we asked for early April.
So are you saying the first week of April or the second week of April?
Either.
And are
Would
you
that be
going to
after the
present your
retreat?
annual report? Because that's what Dante is hoping, that all of the committees will we'll do ours, OEHR will submit theirs and bring that to council, and then I believe it's gonna be deep, and then if you guys wanna do yours, you can do yours, and then there'll be the CEC and PCOG, and also the PAC, so,
I'm sorry, he's hoping to line up all of those in one day,
all of those in
in
one
one,
month.
1 month, oh, in 1 month. Yeah, I mean, I think, but of April,
Sure.
okay. Yeah, because we were hoping for after March, because of the retreat planning. So I think better for us would be the second week of April.
That sounds right.
Okay.
And in terms of the annual report, is there a committee that's taking care of this, or how?
I mean, Kyle did it pretty
Oh,
much.
without Kyle.
himself. No, just Kyle did it,
Should we have it in the exec?
and I'm happy to do it with exec committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we want to present that second week of April to council besides the annual report?
Well, you know, I mean, I wrote them that we need to get on the schedule. I haven't heard from them, so maybe we could also ask for a slot for.
You can make it part of the annual report. I don't-
For what? I'm sorry.
Well, in the Housing Rights Task Force, we talked about taking the findings from the day of homelessness and breaking it out into several reports.
Okay.
So we want to be put on the schedule, and I wrote them about that, but we had the idea of doing probably like 5 short presentations.
In the 3-minute
around-
public communication slots.
Right.
So
rather than-
not appropriate for this situation.
Yeah, rather than on the agenda. I mean, we could ask to be on the
I
agenda.
would suggest that you guys requested that report out be on the agenda, because as a body that advises council and the mayor, that seems appropriate, more appropriate than trying to get into those community spots.
And that's what we talked about, and it's a much more difficult request. And so if we're gonna be requesting that we do an annual report, then we'd also be requesting separately that HRTF go onto the agenda too. And I think if we were gonna do that, I wouldn't want to do it in April. I couldn't do it in April.
Yeah.
I can't do it in April. so.
Okay, so let's just keep it simple, huh?
So just the annual report in
Yeah.
April? And let me know if you guys want some assistance with
As far as getting on the council?
on the council for the roundtable.
Yeah, but we'll have to, yeah, so you'll have to do that for us, once we decide when to do it. But I don't think April is appropriate for us.
Oh, okay, all right, because I wrote.
That's the difference, remember, there's 2 different processes.
Well, she was writing them to get onto the
Public communications slots.
So if we're not gonna do that, then just, I guess, chalk it up, we don't need it, we're gonna go through, to get on them.
Okay, okay.
I think, I don't think we said not to do
Oh,
Oh, and then the last piece is that there,
we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
with 1 open slot, you have 2 potential nominees. And the reason I'm bringing this to the body is because one of the nominees is a freshman in high school. And this would be a little bit different than what I've known in terms of who's on the HRC. She's freshman in high school, she has a really impressive resume. She's been doing a lot of human rights work around homelessness.
You mean applicants?
Applicants.
Okay, said nominees.
I'm an applicant. And she's expressed a lot of interest to me. She sent me several emails, and she sent the formal packet, or application packet. So I'm bringing this to you guys, maybe you need to check bylaws or something, but knowing that this person is, I believe, 17?
I think
Or
that's-
16.
Okay, we talked about it a little bit already, and PCOG had somebody that was on their body that was 15 years old when they started. I was 20.
it. Are you saying check the bylaws relative to age, or check the bylaws relative to nominees? The age?
The age.
Oh, I don't think there's any.
There is nothing about
I
age in
didn't
the
see anything about
bylaws.
age, I just wanted to bring it to you guys for you all.
And we were requested back in July 2013, during the roundtable we did, to maintain a youth person.
So this is
Sounds
perfect.
like
This
a-
is
So
awesome.
here's the question, is that in addition to the 15 commissioners?
No,
Or is that as one?
Ed commissioner.
as one, as a commissioner. because our bylaws read 15 commissioners at this point. Yeah.
So
We
then
don't
this
discriminate,
person will go into the nominee pool
Yeah,
along with the
like a
other.
regular.
Sam, you with this, you jiving with all of
What do you
this? Okay, yeah. This is all good for you
Yeah.
as chair of nominee?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, that was great.
thank you.
One more thing about nominations, since, should we be waiting until was it April in order for us to do it? Because there's, by the time you leave, there'll be
To
2
do
spots
what?
open. And
Right.
there's,
Wait to do what though?
wait to start the nomination process. Or should
No,
we
I
just
think,
go immediately?
my hope is that we have some interviews this month and
Okay.
get some more applicants, and then we can interview, we'll interview for the likelihood of Amy's departure,
Okay.
which is in April, right? So,
So we just wouldn't appoint that person?
Yeah.
we just wouldn't appoint that person until Amy leaves.
Right.
Right. That's my hope.
I will not take any time since it's already been taken, but,
Sorry.
the RNW, I think we were looking to maybe see if we can get RNW to facilitate our retreat. And I can speak more about that next week. I mentioned it to my supervisor and director, and there's a possibility that they are willing to. So yeah, there's that. And then I really wanted everybody to be here for my next comment, and I think I should probably wait until the next meeting.
We'll do it earlier
Okay.
then. In the middle.
Right.
Okay,
But
thank you.
yeah, just let me know. I'll kind of just coordinate via email however we do it about that.
Okay,
About the
that's
RW.
that's for the
Giallo.
retreat team.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you. I
Is there
adjourn. Yes?
Oh, I have one more thing.
Adjourned.
It's kind of important, actually. It's the Oregon Center for Human Rights that Cameron Witten is working on. They're treading water right now. They're doing awesome as far as setting it up, and they're starting with an online platform that they're calling Humanity Lab. And it's basically an online experience with interactive multimedia exhibits that cover the diversity of Oregon, old and new. The Oregon Center for Human Rights collaborates with schools and educators as equal partners to ensure that the Humanity Lab will enrich youth with human rights culture, immersing them in creative, authentic experiences in Oregon. The online presence will be accessible for all who benefit, whether they live in Astoria, Grants Pass, Eugene, etc. In the description of it, it's short. It's an online museum that allows for visitors to view multimedia exhibits, visual, audio, video, and it will come in easy, simple design. Basically, and it has quizzes, conduct polls, and has online classes and stuff. Basically, what he wants to know from us is if we are interested in being a financial sponsor for it. I think that maybe I should just plant that seed now, and we can discuss it at the next meeting about how much we could or would want to contribute to this. But it's so closely aligned with our work, and it would allow Portlanders to be more educated on human rights, so that I feel like it'd be mutually beneficial for both of us to work together. So, yeah, you don't have to make a decision
Great,
now.
yeah.
I mean, it's good in terms of budget preparation.
Yeah.
Good in terms of budget preparation, and we gotta get our own house in order
I know.
first.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
we can nag each other about getting budgets in, and then we'll know what it looks like for outside funding.
Yeah, okay. Should I tell you guys the price he's asking for real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so it's about
Yes.
25 to 35K.
Okay?
Thousand.
You should tell them what our budget is.
I know.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah. I mean, we don't need to finance the whole thing, but if we could contribute anything, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you all.
I had a couple things to say.
Yay, Linda's here.
Okay, great.
Just briefly, I will be very brief.
With public comments, you missed it.
I know. I thought I said I was going to be here for this meeting and not the last one, but here I am, and I'll keep it short. First of all, I have a suggestion about the homeless sweeps. What people told me when I interviewed them after sweeps was, now, taking their stuff means also taking their meds. So for example, if this woman has pneumonia, she's taking antibiotics, right? Somebody could come by and sweep her stuff up and take her meds away, and she wouldn't get them for a whole month. So something specific, I would hope, would go into your suggestions or resolutions about that.
And I just wanted to say that it's just been a joy to work with every one of you. It's been a privilege to work beside a group of really committed citizens. And I especially enjoyed helping create the public events. I learned a lot from each one of you. The camaraderie was fantastic. And please consider me a friend of HRC. And especially if you have public events or events that you're working on, give me a ring and I'll come and do some work.
Great.
So it's been great to visit and to see all the dynamic new blood.
Who is this woman? So this is Linda McIngvale, who was a former HRC commissioner. She was instrumental in bringing forward the Day of Homelessness Awareness Forum. So that is who it is that she, yeah.
And former vice chair, right?
And former vice chair.
Yes.
So this is Linda, these are our new commissioners.
Thank you, Linda.
So anyway, sorry, Linda, go ahead and finish. Go ahead and continue.
See all you new people on board.